I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. What we, the people, are entitled to receive from our government. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. There's great confusion all over the land about rights and what the government really owes us. Essentially, there are three major expectations that the government should meet under the constitutional banner of pursuit of happiness. Number one, security. We're entitled to have an effective defense against people who would kill us. But today our security is wobbling because of hackers and leakers. And the federal government does not seem to be able to stop the espionage. While many Americans don't pay attention, this issue that we cannot guard our defense secrets or even protect the President of the United States when he talks to a foreign leader is something that America has never seen before. Simply put, the high-tech world is creating threats to our security that are almost out of control. This is perhaps the most important issue the federal government faces right now. But close to that is health care. Americans are entitled to an affordable medical system that can alleviate their suffering. All of us are going to get sick, and we will need help. But right now, that help is confusing, to say the least. It's pointless for the factor or anyone else to debate Obamacare and what might replace it until a new specific proposal is put forth. When details are decided and the bill is ready to be considered, we'll be all over it. The guiding principles of health care should be that it's financially reasonable, affordable, that you have direct access to the doctors you want, and that you are not bogged down in a chaotic system of red tape and delays. So Congress has a lot of work to do to put a fair health care system in place. Finally, all American adults should have fair access to the free marketplace. By that I mean you can't be denied a job because of your color, your race, or anything else. Also, the government needs to put sensible guidelines in place that protect workers from exploitation. With many unions now politically corrupted, the feds and the states have much more responsibility to working Americans. That's it. That's what we are owed. The Bernie Sanders philosophy that everybody should be guaranteed a job at a set wage and shepherded through life is not what America is all about. We compete here, but in some cases, some Americans are not treated fairly in the marketplace. Best example, children from families who don't really care about them. These kids are often thrown into awful schools and wash out early without much of an education. They have little chance to succeed economically in this country. For far too long, America's looked away from that reality. Every American child deserves a quality education. And right now, the system is not providing that for millions of kids. That must change. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight, the danger of hacking and leaking. Joining us from Washington, Mark Zaid, an attorney who specializes in whistleblower cases and high-tech intrusion. So the WikiLeaks deal, we saw it again yesterday, all these CIA documents released, about 9,000 of them, is a direct threat to this nation. Is it not, Counselor?
No, absolutely. I mean, anytime information, especially classified, is taken from U.S. government or contracting facilities and is leaked without authorization poses a significant danger.
Now, this is a labyrinth here. We have a lot of investigative agencies, the National Security Agency, the FBI, the CIA, Defense Intelligence, and it seems right now that none of them have control over leaks out of their various departments. Do you see it that way?
I mean, it is a problem. This one in particular is going to be very interesting. Now, of course, the government hasn't verified the authenticity, at least not on the record, per se. But the press reports have been that the majority of these documents were unclassified and were circulating among groups or contractors of the CIA, which to me is going to be fascinating as part of this leak investigation. Because, what kind of controls are on unclassified information, far different than if it's classified information, and whether the systems are being hacked into or whether people are taking documents out or obviously just verbally disclosing information. But it is obviously a big problem. And in this day and age, when technology is so advanced, when you have the Mannings and the Snowdens of the world, where you just put a thumb drive or a CD-ROM in and you have 1.5 million documents, if that wall and shield isn't perfect, we have a problem.
Well, it's not perfect. Obviously, it's
not.
embarrassing. I mean, when the President of the United States has a phone call with the Prime Minister of Australia and the President of Mexico, and 24 hours later the phone call's in the press, I mean, that's doesn't get any worse than that. We cannot conduct business as a nation if the President of the United States cannot have a phone call with a foreign leader without it being taped and disseminated to the press. Am I wrong?
No, not at all. I mean, that's fascinating, that obviously, because that's even a different situation from with respect to classified information at one of the intel agencies.
Yeah, that's just eavesdropping on the guy, the leader of the country, and that's what happened.
Right.
And it's insane. And not only
it makes
that,
it difficult.
Not only that, you have a situation where a private citizen, General Flynn, was caught up on a wiretap with the Russian ambassador. And where is Flynn's privacy? Where is his right to not be wiretapped? Where is it?
Well, so that comes into a different situation. So presumably he was caught through an authorized legal warrant and as an incidental capture. Now, that is different, though, from then someone leaking the information, which is classified.
But under the bylaws of the warrant, he's supposed to be protected.
Yes, he's supposed to have minimization with respect to his identity.
The guy's career is over. And I'm not saying that what he did was by misleading the vice president. We talked about that last night.
Right.
You know, okay. But his whole life and career has been adversely affected. There was no minimization. It was bang, he did this. We don't know exactly what was said in that call, but we know that he was on it, and and the aspersions were made that he was doing something wrong.
Yeah, well, and even with some of the others from within the NSC, there have been reports of individuals who have been denied security clearances. Now, that may be interesting, and it may be newsworthy, and maybe it's even valuable for the public to know, but it is a violation of those individuals' privacies. I represent people like that all the time. I don't want my clients
Flynn could go to you tomorrow
on the air,
and he could sue the federal government, could he not?
Well, it's a little complicated in very narrow provisions of whether the Privacy Act applied to that information, and it's a very boring conversation.
I bet you could.
I would represent General Flynn, and that would be an interesting case.
Yeah, it would be, because he didn't have he had no privacy at all, and he was not a government official at that point. He was a regular guy. All right, and we don't, I mean, I don't want to belabor the thing, but the basic point is that there is no control now, none. All right, at the federal level, at the highest level, in the Oval Office, all right, in the CIA archives, in the NSA tapping or whatever. There's no control of information, classified information. It could appear anytime, anywhere. That's a disaster. Last word.
Well, there's obviously control, but the controls have some deficiencies in them. And one of the things to cure that would be a more secure and proper system for whistleblowers to be able to go internally rather than externally.
I know it's your issue, but it's an ancillary issue. They cannot protect, they being the government agencies, they cannot protect their secrets. They can't. And
they got to work on it.
It's really dangerous for this country. Counselor, thanks for appearing. We appreciate it. Next on the Rundown. It is the FBI's job to protect us from hackers and leakers. Is the Bureau doing that? And later, press reports say FBI Director James Comey furious with President Trump. Bernie Goldberg is following that story. Up ahead. Impact segment tonight. As we reported last night, some members of the House Judiciary Committee have asked the FBI Director James Comey to testify about classified information leaks and cyber attacks. Joining us from Washington, two members of that committee, Congressman Eric Swalwell, Democrat from California, and Louis Gohmert, Republican from Texas. So, Congressman Gohmert, you did not sign the letter asking for Mr. Comey to appear. You don't think it's worthy?
Well, in two places in the letter, it mentions wanting to be briefed by Comey about the Russian situation. And if anybody for anybody that does watch Fox, and we know that's a big audience, we have seen reports about the CIA actually says they have the capability to hack in and leave a Russian footprint. We have heard clearly from a number of people that there is absolutely no evidence of the Russians interfering with our election. I think it is a waste of time. What I'm more concerned about, Bill, is the people within the Intelligence Committee that have lied to us in Congress and lied to those of us that have been on the Judiciary Committee for a while, when they've said, look, you'll never know if it picks up an American citizen, that name will be masked. It will take a court order to release that.
Yeah, that's what. But Comey could.
That's what
Comey could address that. You see, yeah. I want. Look,
and
I understand what you're saying.
Requested. They want to know about the Russian situation.
Well, yeah, but you're never going to get to the bottom of that in the testimony before your committee. But what you will get is an overview of what the FBI is doing and how it sees this. How about you, Mrs. Swalwell? I mean, some Democrats don't even want to hear from Comey. Do you?
I do, and I have faith in our intelligence community because they're all we've got. They're protecting our national security. But the dots in this investigation continue to connect Donald Trump and his team to Russia. And the biggest question now is whether they were working with Russia while the attack on our democracy was going on.
Can you give me one piece of evidence that supports that theory, the dot theory? Because I don't have it here.
Yeah.
One piece of evidence that Russia colluded with the Trump campaign. Give me one.
Yeah, and Bill, right now there's prior personal, political, and business ties, and the investigation that we would like to see is whether they were working with
give
Russians.
Me one piece of solid information connecting the campaign to the Russians. Give me one.
Carter Page, a month after it was revealed that Russia was attacking us, travels over with the campaign's permission to Russia. Now, I don't know why anyone would go to a country that is attacking us during a presidential campaign who is the president's foreign policy advisor. We need to run that one down.
Congressman Gohmert, do you know anything about Carter Page traveling to Russia?
Well, I understand that he had no official tie with the Trump campaign, but that he did have some conversations, some ties to Russia, but that's not the Trump administration. But Bill, having watched your show most every night, often I'm watching the rerun, but it's still just as cogent when it's a rerun. But the real issue, the real threat to our democratic republic is that we have intelligence officers who have gained access to information by the powers Congress has given them. They've lied to Congress about how they're using it.
Do you know who's lied, though? Can you give me a name?
They're using it to manipulate
All right, I got it. Can you give me a name? Somebody's lied to you? Can you give me somebody in the intelligence?
Well, I can't. What I can tell you is we have been told, going back to the Bush administration, that you never have to worry about this program.
And Flynn was a private citizen.
Names will be masked.
Right.
And now we find out they're not masked. The conversations aren't minimized.
Well, that's a big deal.
And it is a big deal to me because there are people from both administrations.
I don't know. You know, guys,
this could never happen, and now it's happening.
I appreciate you both coming on, but I don't know if we're ever going to get to the bottom of this.
We have to. We really do have to get to the bottom of it.
All right.
We do. This is dangerous stuff.
It is absolutely dangerous. There's no doubt about it. When a sitting president can't have a conversation with the president of Mexico without being in the newspaper
Bill,
the next day.
let me tell you one way we'll get to the bottom, and I think we can.
I only got 20 seconds.
What I've said repeatedly, you guys keep saying how important this is to have this power. If you don't give us the leakers and how this happened, I will join with my Democratic friends, and we will eliminate your power to do this.
All right. We appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Unresolved problems taking place. It seems like every day there are broad attacks leveled at President Trump and his administration. The latest is that people all over the world are embarrassed by the USA.
The United States, just isn't a very attractive ally any longer. So, this really does have consequences for us as we're trying to build alliances. We're trying to build coalitions around the world to fight extremists, to fight challenges like global warming. We can't do that if people feel embarrassed to be associated with the United States.
Here now to analyze, Abby Huntsman, co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. From Washington, Jillian Turner, national security expert. Jillian, when you heard a soundbite like that, or when you hear a soundbite like that, do you buy it?
I don't buy it. The first thing I think is that it's kind of ridiculous to say that foreign countries should be embarrassed or ashamed of the United States. But then the immediate second thing I think is, as a sitting senator, shouldn't the bar for critiquing the president, which is a perfectly legitimate thing to do, shouldn't that bar be a little higher than kind of name calling?
I mean, where's the substance? Harry Reid mean anything to you? There's no bar. I mean, look, they're all in business to destroy each other. Both parties want to destroy the other. But I'm
unhelpful.
I'm glad that you feel that it's ridiculous to say that people are embarrassed by the USA. Far left loons like Senator Murphy are embarrassed. I mean, I think that's true, and you can find them in every country. But the consensus is what?
Right. Well, Pat Murphy, I mean, I think he's trying to be the foreign policy voice for Democrats.
No, he's running for president.
Oh, yeah. So he's really trying to be as political as he can get. Look, but that's a big statement to make, to say that our allies are embarrassed by us. If you're going to make a statement like that, you have to back it up with some evidence.
No, he doesn't.
Has he? Well, I think you do.
But he doesn't have to back it up.
Has he called other leaders and asked them how they feel about this country right now? No.
Of course he doesn't. But you say he has to back it up. The American press isn't going to hold him to the fire. They're not going to say, hey, that's irresponsible. We're probably the only show doing this segment tonight. He doesn't have to back up anything. All he has to do is throw a bomb after bomb after bomb. Now
what does that lead to, Bill, though? I mean,
chaos.
Ultimately, Democrats need to win elections if they really want to make a difference, right?
Well,
and I've traveled around this country.
They're not going to win elections by foreign policy. But you're an interesting study because your father
Where's this going?
is going to be appointed ambassador to Russia, right?
Well, I will go with what the White House is saying on that one.
Yeah, so Abby's father is going to be the new ambassador to Russia. You lived in Beijing, China, when your father was ambassador to China. Did you think that the Chinese were embarrassed by the USA when you were over there?
No, if anything, they idolize the USA.
The folks did.
They idolize what's going on here, places like Google, like Facebook, these companies, so they can never do over there. I actually called my dad today and asked him, because he just got back from China and Japan. I said, when you were there, were people embarrassed about this country? And he said, no, actually, they were pretty amazed at our politics and how we could go from such extreme chapters, going from 8 years under President Obama to now this movement under Trump, which is he's taking it in a very different direction. I think places like China are fascinated by that because their government doesn't change.
No, they're all, you do it my way or we hurt you. Now, Jillian, overseas, I would think it would be fair if Senator Murphy were a responsible man, which I don't know him, but that statement was irresponsible to say, look, there are some countries that are worried. And there are. There are some countries that are worried about Donald Trump. There's no question about that. And I think that's a legitimate statement because we all have to see how it plays out, correct?
Correct. You said to Abby a minute ago, where is this all going? Meaning, where is this kind of, where are these kinds of really politically motivated insults going? And I think the answer there, especially for Senator Murphy, is this is going downhill for the entire Congress really quickly. Mind you, the big news story lately about Congress has been that for the first time in years, its national approval rating is up to something like 28%.
Wow, isn't that considered high, though?
I mean,
very high.
That is, but that's what I'm saying that with some irony here. This is high for the Congress. So I think that's a cautionary tale.
Do you know why that is?
For the entire Congress. why it skyrocketed?
Well, it's up to 28%. Let's not overblow it. Do you know why?
I don't.
Okay,
the
reason that it's up to 28%, a paltry number, but better than 6%, is because the Obamacare is being thrown out. And that's why it's going up.
Yeah, but you know what, Bill? People are so tired of the negativity. You know, I've traveled around going to diners every week around this country.
Yeah.
They want people to give President Trump a chance. We're on day 49.
I think most Americans are fair.
So let's be critical. Let's be critical when the time and place for that is.
I want a cheeseburger with a big pickle. Next time you go to the diner, please bring it back.
Oh, at the diner.
She never puts on any weight, ladies and gentlemen. He goes to the diners all the time, and I don't know how that happens. All right. Thank you, ladies. Plenty more ahead as the factor moves along this evening. Are drug dealers killers? In Florida, there's a proposed law that would designate them that way. True Serum segment tonight. Florida may get tough on drug dealers, and George Soros donating hundreds of millions of dollars to groups associated with the Women's March and the work stoppage yesterday. Here now, True Serum correspondents Eric Shawn and Shannon Bream. So tell me about the Soros deal, Shannon.
Well, he has been very supportive of a number of the groups that have had these big marches against the president, essentially. The Media Research Center cracked these numbers down. They said 100 of the groups received $246 million from Soros over the last 14 years. You know, he poured estimated $25 million into Hillary Clinton's election campaign and some down ballot races as well. But this march yesterday, many of these groups are directly linked to him and his donations.
Okay, so let me just stop you there. There are a number of political groups that helped organize the big women's march that we're looking at, right? Okay. Soros gave $250 million or whatever it was to 100 of these groups over a 14-year period. Is there an implication that he pulls strings? He tells them what he wants? Is he the puppet master?
Some people would say that, but the fact is that a number of these groups have very specific ideologies, and by pouring his millions of dollars
They're all
into
left-wing groups,
these
right?
are very progressive groups, and those are the ones he's chose to, vote for
because
essentially
he's
with his
an
money.
uber leftist.
And he doesn't like Trump. He's made that very clear. He says Trump's going to be the death of democracy, but he's the one who wants open borders, one world government,
Sure.
one world religion, and so
we all know who he is, but I don't think that most Americans are aware on how involved he is on these demonstrations. Now, I don't know yesterday. I mean, some of the ladies didn't go to work. You showed up, right?
I went to work. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I thought that was a
and
good
you did
way.
a nice job, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I thought it was a
let's
good
hear
way
it for
to.
Miss Shannon. You did a very nice job.
That was a good way to demonstrate
you could have
my
been,
skills and my value.
And we did a segment on it last night. I'm sympathetic. I mean, I want women to be treated equally as men. But I also know that there's a big political push behind this movement, and the push is coming from the Soros left.
And I asked some of the people who participated yesterday, is this a pro-woman march or is this an anti-Trump march? And they pretty much admitted this is anti-Trump.
Anti-Trump.
And, they won't let conservative groups or pro-life women's groups be a part of what they're doing, so not sure it's a women's group.
Okay, now let's get down to Florida. Now, as you know, I disagree with President Obama's kind of soft touch on drug dealers. All right? He doesn't consider them violent. He doesn't consider selling hard drugs a violent crime. This is President Obama. In Florida now, there is a move to make the sale of one particular drug. If you do it and somebody dies, you're charged with murder.
That's
correct?
it, and that's fentanyl. Right now, if you're in Florida, Bill, you're a dealer, you sell cocaine or heroin to somebody, and they die, you get charged with felony murder. But you've got this overwhelming epidemic in our country of the opioids, of fentanyl, and that is not the case now. And
This is synthetic heroin, right?
Exactly, synthetic drugs, exactly. And if you sell that and the person dies, that's the huge loophole. This is the bill. It is a huge bill that's right now going to be argued next month in Tallahassee, and it will charge a dealer who deals.
So
with
right now in
fentanyl.
Florida, if you're a dealer and you sell cocaine or heroin, somebody dies, you can be charged with murder, right?
Yes.
I think that you can do that in most states, but very few prosecutors do.
Yeah,
they don't do it.
And there's been really just one prosecution of fentanyl in Florida. It was last year in Palm Beach, where a guy who allegedly sold fentanyl to someone who then died, he was convicted, got 30 years. That's the only case.
Okay, that's what has to happen. Now, is there a big opioid heroin problem in Florida?
It is huge. More than 700 people dying of fentanyl in 1 year.
Is that right?
And
700 on fentanyl alone?
Yeah, and it has been growing across the country, and it really deals with all these synthetic mixtures.
Yeah, sure.
That is just raised such.
I said to somebody the other day, I mean, if you're taking that drug, I mean, hard for me to feel sorry for you. I mean, because it's like taking cyanide. That's how dangerous this thing is, you know? All right. Thanks very much, guys. We appreciate it. We come right back. Fake news. What is it really? Bernie Goldberg, moments away. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly in the Weekdays of Bernie segment tonight. Two interesting topics, beginning with a report that FBI Director James Comey asked the Justice Department, headed by Attorney General Jeff Sessions, to publicly reject President Trump's assertion that President Obama ordered taps in the Trump Tower. Now, that report was based on anonymous sources, but it's widely accepted as truth, even though Director Comey has not said a word, nor has anyone in the Justice Department. Joining us from Miami, Bernard Goldberg. So, my contention is this. If you don't have any backup or perspective, you can mention it. All right, this is what's floating around. But you got to stop there. You can't build speculation unless there's somebody on the record saying something. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think you are. I think this is important because we need to believe the President of the United States. We live in a free country, and if we don't believe what he says, we have a problem. He put out a tweet that said his offices at Trump Tower were bugged, and President Obama was behind it. I don't know if that's true. I assume it is not true. Everybody has knocked it down, but you can't put that out without any proof. He's the president.
Well,
he can't just put that out.
He can put
and that's
it out,
why
and he does. He's a
important.
provocateur, and he does it. Now, you can criticize him, as you are, for doing it. And that legitimate criticism, people can take it or leave it, but you can't basically establish a baseline record on anonymous sources that have no context provided to them. We don't know who put this out. We don't know anything.
Okay. Here's why I believe it. Here's why I believe it. Because I don't believe any of the alternatives. I don't believe the New York Times just made it up, and I'm pretty sure.
With all due respect,
you
the
don't
fact
either.
that you believe it is fine, but other people don't believe it. They believe Trump. It goes down along partisan lines.
Do you really want to go down that road? Do you really want to do that?
What I want to do is advance this story journalistically.
The Trump supporters don't care if he lies. He's on their team, and that's all they care about.
Some people are in that category, and it was the same with Obama people. All right, no matter what he did was fine. He walks on water. You can't criticize him. It's always been that way since George Washington. But journalistically speaking, we're starting to build baselines of fact based on no facts. There aren't any facts in this story, in the sense that we don't know if Comey said that. We don't know if anybody at the Justice Department was told that. So it's no baseline. That's all.
No, I just couldn't disagree more. Let me finish this thought. You don't believe, I'm pretty sure, and I certainly don't believe that the New York Times just made it up. So let's get that out of the way. Even though a lot of people watching us think they do engage in fake news, they don't, okay? That's out of the way. I don't believe that the reporter was simply a stenographer who just took down what somebody said and put it in the paper. They need backup sources. No, I believe that Comey would have said something by now if it didn't happen, and I sure as hell believe that Jeff Sessions would have said, Comey never came to me. He's a Republican. So,
well, the Sessions thing is interesting. That's interesting. And we may be able to get to the bottom of that. All right, look. You're being very generous, and because I know you're a very generous man, and people appreciate that about you. And if you need a loan, Bernie lives in Miami and North Carolina. All right, let's get to another thing that's very important. Not important, but interesting. There's a big radio station here in New York City called WFAM, and it's a great sports thing. It's a lively debate. And one of the stars on WFAM is Mike Francesa, and he said this the other day. Go.
I always wanted to ask you, in your lifetime, do you think we're ever going to see a day that we're going to have a professional manager, coach, female, that's a female, in your opinion?
Of a male team?
Yeah.
No.
Well, why aren't we outraged by that?
Do you know how difficult it would be on a female to manage 25 men? Or 50 men? Do you know how impossible that would be?
Difficulty, love. I'm just saying it would be tough.
It wouldn't be tough. It'd be impossible.
Now, for saying that, he's under fire of being anti-women and anti-this and anti-that. And I'm saying, look, he's entitled to his opinion, may not agree with it, but he's a knowledgeable man about sports. He knows what the locker room situations are. He knows what the dynamics are. Isn't he entitled to his opinion without being punished?
Yes. And the liberal, politically correct world will punish you if you're not PC enough, and that's what's happening here. Now, having said that, I disagree with him. When it comes to, let's take football off of the field, so to speak. It's a violent game, and I don't think football players would respect anybody who hasn't either played the game or coached at a very high level. So let's take that off. But basketball and baseball, there are only two kinds of coaches in those areas, those who have been fired and those who will be fired. They just recycle the same guys over and over again.
I don't disagree.
If a woman...
I don't disagree that a woman could coach a men's basketball team, 12 players, that could happen. But he was talking about baseball and football, and I think it would be I agree with Francesa, it would be almost impossible on a number of different levels for that to happen. But even if you disagree, and even if, and you know sports, you work for HBO Sports, and I know sports, he shouldn't be punished. Francesa is entitled to his opinion.
No, I agree. I totally agree.
Right.
But let me make one point very briefly.
Real quick.
Athletes have changed over the years. When you played football in the 1940s and 50s, it was one thing. What? Today, athletes are more open to, let's call it diversity. They play with gay players.
Yeah, I
went to Wales.
It's just logistics.
So they'll accept a woman if the woman knows what she's talking about, if they have confidence in her, and if they're winning, they will get on board.
All right, and
some
I agree,
will be reluctant, but only some.
Dissenters should not be punished. In fact, a tip today, getting the truth about a West Coast earthquake article in a moment. But first, the mail. Alan Dyer, Cedar Park, Texas. O'Reilly, Bob Woodward lapsed into the ends justify the means when you prompted him on whether publishing the president's private conversations is fair reportage. I'm glad you emailed Alan because I want to clarify this issue. If a president is doing something harmful to the nation, as Richard Nixon did, then reporters should aggressively pursue the situation and expose wrongdoing if they can. But if a president is simply conducting the nation's business, we in the press have an obligation to vet what we are fed. America or any other country cannot conduct business without some privacy. It was embarrassing for the USA to have Mr. Trump's phone calls with Mexico and Australia leaked for no apparent reason. Journalists make editorial decisions all the time, and right now many of those decisions are undermining the USA for no reason whatsoever. Robert Bigham, Homedale, Idaho. Woodward never questioned President Obama while he was in office. False, Robert. Bob Woodward was very critical of the Obama administration's secrecy. Judy DeVar, Ojai, California. O'Reilly, just heard you say belonging to a gang is a deportable offense. Is that true? Seems to violate freedom of association. If you are in this country illegally, you can be deported, Judy. One of Homeland Security's rules is that undocumented people who are gang members get deportation priority. All very legal. Dino Gutierrez, Liberty Hill, Texas. I served this country in 5 tours of combat and am a strong male figure. Seems like we are dinosaurs born in the wrong generation. Times have changed, Dino, no question, and the PC culture is harming a number of people. But there will always be respect for guys like you, at least on this program and on this network. Lorimer Fairfield, Vancouver, Canada. I've read Churchill and Shire, but never before in books of human conflict has so much been so movingly detailed as in Killing the Rising Sun. Well, that's a great compliment, Lorimer. Martin Dugard and I don't consider ourselves Winston or William, but we do try to paint a vivid picture of heroism and evil in our history books. Thanks for reading Killing the Rising Sun. Tom McKay, Phoenix, Arizona. Bill, my 12-year-old son Elijah loves history. Can he become a BillO'Reilly.com premium member? Absolutely, Tom. And I'm sending him a membership. Also, all premium members get the Talking Points memo emailed daily. And now, because we like you, everybody can get that. Simply go to the website, BillO'Reilly.com, sign up for the free newsletter. You get the T-Points mailed to you every day. And a very happy birthday to Henry Halverson, 100 years old, in Rancho Palos Verdes, California. Fine Science Fact today, we have been advising you to be very skeptical of what you read. Last night, I told you about an article in the Associated Press headlined, California Fault Could Cause Magnitude 7.4 Quake. Ooh. The report based on a study by the Scripps Oceanography people, showing some fault lines around Los Angeles and San Diego. Pretty alarming, right? Well, for 2 days, we've tried to get more information. Is the quake inevitable? Likely. Just a theory. What? We still can't get an answer. For 2 days from these Scripps people. They won't clarify. Bad. Bold headline, little definition. Continue to be skeptical. Factor tip of the day. And that is it for us tonight. Please check out the Fox News Factor website, different from BillO'Reilly.com. Also, please spout off about the Factor from anywhere in the world. O'Reilly at FoxNews.com, O'Reilly at FoxNews.com. Name and town if you wish to opine. Word of the day, do not be tautological. Ooh, huh? If you know that word, you're good. Do not be tautological when writing to the Factor. Again, thanks for watching us tonight. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Please remember this spin stops here. We're definitely looking out for you.